So picture this. It's late 2025. An invisible force from space reaches down and tweaks the code in a single airplane computer. And that one tiny change triggers one of the biggest, most urgent safety responses in the history of modern aviation. This is the incredible story of the cosmic glitch that grounded 6,000 jets and what it tells us about the amazing systems that keep us safe in the sky. Let's dig in.
Okay, so it all starts here, on an otherwise perfectly normal Thursday. You're on a flight, cruising high above the clouds. Everything's smooth. And then, boom, out of nowhere, the nose of the plane just drops. And for a split second, you're totally weightless. That is exactly what happened.
Yeah, the official report paints a pretty chaotic picture inside that cabin. For a few terrifying moments, it must have felt like gravity just switched off. This wasn't just some bumpy air, no way. This was something else entirely, something the pilots hadn't commanded. And it immediately set off alarm bells across the entire aviation world.
The flight at the center of this whole mystery was JetBlue Flight 2870. What started as a single, bizarre event high over the Gulf of Mexico would very quickly become the focus of a massive global investigation.
All right, so here are the basics. We're talking about an Airbus A320 flying from Cancun up to Newark when its nose suddenly pitched down all on its own. The pilots, absolute pros, immediately took back manual control, declared an emergency, and got the plane down safely in Tampa. A few passengers had minor injuries, but their quick thinking prevented anything worse. But the real question, the billion-dollar question, was why? What on earth just happened?
And that's when the real digital detective work began. Investigators knew right away they weren't looking for a broken bolt or a leaky hose. The bad guy here was invisible, hidden somewhere in the millions of lines of code and complex circuits that make a modern jet fly.
So the investigators did what they do best. They started ruling things out, one by one. First up, the black box. Did the pilots mess up? Nope, they were flawless. Next, the mechanical systems. Any hardware failures? Not a single one. Everything was in perfect shape. Which left just one suspect, the plane's brain. And that's exactly where they hit pay dirt. And the component they zeroed in on was this thing called the ELAC. That stands for Elevator and Aileron Computer. You can think of it as a key part of the jet's central nervous system. It takes what the pilots want to do and translates that into tiny adjustments that keep the plane stable. This is where the ghost in the machine was hiding.
After weeks of digging through data, they finally found it. And the answer? Well, it was something nobody expected. It wasn't a manufacturing mistake or a typical software bug. The culprit literally came from outer space.
Okay, so check this out. Here's how it all went down, step by step. It all started with a burst of solar radiation, particles from the sun hitting the plane at 30,000 feet. Usually no big deal, but this time a single particle zapped the ELAC and flipped a single bit of data, just a 1 to a 0. The problem was a specific version of the software had a tiny vulnerability. It didn't catch the error. So the computer saw that corrupted data and thought it was a real command, and it ordered the plane to pitch down. A random particle from the sun had basically tricked the airplane. Now, as soon as Airbus figured this out, they moved fast. I mean, really fast. The chances of this happening again were astronomically low. But low isn't zero. And in aviation, that's not good enough. The decision they made was about to send a shockwave through the entire travel industry.
So less than a month after the incident, on November 28th, Airbus dropped a bombshell, a global emergency directive. The message was simple and non-negotiable. A huge chunk of their A320 fleet needed an update before they could fly again.
And the scale of this thing, it's just staggering. We're talking about 6,000 aircraft. Remember, the A320 family is the workhorse for airlines all over the globe. Grounding that many jets all at once was just unprecedented.
Just look at this. We're talking more than half of the entire A320 fleet flying on the planet was hit by this directive. From London to Singapore, New York to Dubai, airlines had to start pulling their planes out of service, effective immediately.
And that directive triggered a massive, round-the-clock, global race against time. This wasn't just about fixing a bug. It was about getting a huge piece of the world's travel network back up and running, as fast and as safely as humanly possible.
Now, the fix itself wasn't one-size-fits-all. For most of the newer jets, it was a pretty straightforward software patch. A couple of hours of work, and they were good to go. But for the older models, it was more involved. The entire ELAC computer had to be physically swapped out, a job that could take a few days and keep those planes on the ground longer. I mean, you had maintenance crews working 24/7 in hangars all over the world. And the result was incredible. By early December, just about a week later, the vast majority of those 6,000 planes were updated, tested, and back in the air. The disruption was huge, but it was over fast.
Okay, so I know what you might be thinking. A story about 6,000 planes being grounded sounds kind of scary, right? But here's the twist. This story is actually one of the most reassuring things you could ever hear about air travel.
Think about it. A 1 in a billion event happens. It gets identified, understood, and a fix is rolled out globally in a matter of weeks. You had regulators, the manufacturer, and even competing airlines all working together flawlessly. Safety came first, period. The system didn't fail here. It worked exactly like it's supposed to. This is why flying is the safest way to travel.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. This incident was a wake-up call that in our super complex digital world, the next big problem might not come from a hacker, but from something as random and powerful as a particle from the sun. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? As our cars, our homes, our whole lives get more connected, what's the next cosmic glitch waiting for us just over the horizon?
Subscribe.